sci-fi snob, and this is the Toplofty Lounge. We're in for a smooth show for you today. Oh yeah, baby. In 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, baby. Yeah, here we go. In 11, 10, 9. Oh yeah, baby. Here we come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Toplofty Lounge, episode 36, Conversations for the Elevated. Welcome to all my fellow snobs. This week on the show, we're going to talk about the 1976 classic American sci-fi action movie, Logan's Run. But before we do that, let me introduce my co-host. He is the Francis 7 to my Logan 5, the Ankh to my Sanctuary. He's the Cub to my old man. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, sci-fi fans.
Don't be too excited. All right. So, how was your week, Cam? Before we get started, give people a chance to get in here.
I had a crazy busy. I mentioned last week that I had a crazy busy week. It continued through most of this week, tapered off at the end, and I actually didn't burn the midnight oil at the end of the week, so that was good. I got some tools today on clearance.
Tools.
Mm-hmm. That was exciting. Just a couple socket sets. They were kind of on like a Christmas sale. They were already like discounted, and I think they're like a discontinued line, and then I've been waiting for them to go on super sale because other places, other stores around the country, through the YouTube tool channel network, they mentioned that they had.
There's a YouTube tool channel network.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of tool channels on the YouTube, but they mentioned some of the places they had them on deep discount, but my local store didn't, and then until today they finally did. So I picked up 2 sets for like $20 each, which is like super cheap.
It is real cheap.
Yeah.
All right, enjoy the birds while we're talking. We're waiting for people to come in. My week was all right. We got more snow. I had to snow blow the driveway, all 300 plus meters of it. I got covered in snow. The snow was blowing, and it already had some more. I might have to do it again tomorrow.
I don't know what a meter is, and any mention of it is banned in the United States now.
300 meters. It's like a meter is like a yard, close.
No, I'm sorry, don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's equal to a yard or so. So
we forgot to mention. It's Groundhog Day in the United States.
That's right. It's Groundhog Day. Did anybody know? Did the groundhog see a shadow or anything like that?
I think he betrayed us and predicted.
Yeah, I mean, there was no sun today where I was, and I can't. It's always at least 6 more weeks of winter around here. So I mean, winter doesn't end till
it's more like 6 months of winter for you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, mid. I mean, it was minus 25 Celsius today, and the snow was blowing everywhere.
Again, we only minus 25 right here.
Yeah, minus 25 isn't super cold, but it's it's cold enough, especially when the wind blows, to make you want to.
Well, go out. You have 2 seasons, right? You have winter and mosquito.
Well, here in Edmonton, the joke is we have 2 seasons. We have winter and construction. Because when winter ends, they're trying to fix the potholes and everything. So that was the joke around here. But see, that's more of a Winnipeg joke, right? Winnipeg, Manitoba, because Winnipeg is like flat and it's cold. It's just as cold here as it is in Winnipeg, but Winnipeg gets more wind. So there's like wind always blowing. So it's always, whatever cold it is, it's always 20 degrees more because the wind is blowing and stuff. And they have horrible mosquitoes there. So that's kind of the Winnipeg joke, winter and mosquitoes, because their mosquitoes are huge.
Okay, well, if I could speak as an American for a moment, Canada, to me, there are only a few things. You have the Great White North, and then you have Quebec and the Newfies. That's all that really exists in my mind, in terms of Canada. No offense, but I can't really discern between things. Oh, well, there's also Vancouver, which is Hollywood Junior.
Yeah, Hollywood Junior and hippie land. Canada's a pretty big country. There's a lot more than that. A lot more different. Maybe not as many. I have this talk with Europeans all the time, right? They're like, "Oh, you guys don't have, Americans never go to different countries and stuff." Well, the thing is that America is like Europe in the sense that it's got all these little states, and each state has their own, culture and stuff that they do and things like that, right? So it's not uniform. And Canada's somewhat like that, not quite as much. Well, but you're right. We got the Newfies, we got the French in Quebec, we got the Albertans, and we got the left wing Vancouverites, and all the same. It's very similar. Yes.
Right.
So I hope that helps you.
Yeah.
Because you guys, part of what my job here is, I get, we're all paid by the government, right? So part of my job is to, spread the Canadian knowledge of Canada around here, because we know all kinds of stuff about you guys, but you guys don't give a crap about us. So we got to try to get you to learn about us.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot about Canada in the next couple of days.
Yeah. What, do you want to talk about politics?
No,
crazy, man.
No, I'm just.
It's just crazy. America is the 800-pound gorilla. Like, why would you want to, go up against the 800-pound gorilla, right? Even if you don't like the president or whoever, you got to just go, okay, that's what he wants. Well, I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to deal with it, not go, okay, I dare you.
Without making a political statement, because I'm not a fan of mixing that with entertainment, really. If let's say my neighbor and I, it's like, hey, we're having a problem, and that problem is that his dog is always crapping in my yard, and he throws garbage in my yard.
Yeah.
And I say, hey man, can you cut that out? And he says, screw you. Then whatever my response is, as harsh as it might seem, is kind of justified, because it's real easy. Just don't do that bad thing.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that, it's if your neighbor, but what if your neighbor says, no, I haven't been crapping in your yard and throwing my garbage in there, or it's not that much garbage or whatever, right? But that doesn't matter, because if it's your perception that it's too much, right? That's all you need to, And if there's 40 people living in your house and there's only 4 people living in my house, and you've all got guns, and I got a little stick or something, then whatever if my neighbor's pissed off that I'm allegedly throwing garbage into his yard, then we have to listen, right? Because
and
it could go badly for me.
Yes, and I, as an American, proud American, I can't doubt that America has a lot of weight to throw around. You know what I'm saying? And that can be used badly. That can be misused. There's no doubt about it. In this case, I'm pretty sure that, what? Here's the thing. I think next week, all the idiots will have run their mouths about this and talked about how it's going to end everything. And, oh my God, it's the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. It'll probably be resolved rather quickly.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Because I think that our government wants to keep it going, to be honest.
Well,
they want to use it and say, right? Look what's going on. Look what they did. Oh, it's all this guy's fault. It's not my fault. It's his fault.
Yes.
I think that's what they want to do.
If Canadians are willing to forget everything that your prime minister has done and say, yeah, Canada, and back that guy, go ahead. But where I live in Alberta, that's not going to happen. I mean, people are really, really had enough of that guy, and no one is, there's always a few, but the vast majority of people around here are not buying this crap, and they're just like, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But Ontario is a different thing.
Well, yeah. Okay, so you want to talk about a different dystopia now?
Yeah. Let's get on to the other dystopia. Yeah, all right.
Apologies to everyone.
That's it for the
Apologies.
birds. Yeah. All right. Was I going to do a little bit of administration? I don't think I have any administration to do. Let's get right into the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
So today we're going to talk about Logan's Run. Like I said, that 1976 classic film. What was your before we get into it, Cam? What was your overall? Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hey, everybody in the chat, welcome. Weatherman. Who else do I see? Death Angel Shadow. I see DP. Who else is here? That's it. We got a smaller show today.
Yeah, we're running with
a couple
core,
lurkers.
The loyal
core group. We got a couple lurkers, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the movie. Let's just do a quick overall. What was your overall, sense of the movie? What did you think? Rate it.
Well,
out of 10. I don't know. Whatever you want.
I have some fondness for the movie. Greg C. Yes, this is live. Welcome.
Greg C. Welcome. Yes. Hello.
I have some nostalgic, ties for this movie. It was, I first saw it sometime after Star Wars came out. I think it was probably on TV or something. I didn't see it in the theater. I would have been, very a baby at the time or younger. Not alive, but it was in the post Star Wars era in which they grabbed pretty much anything sci-fi to try and rehash it. So it was a big thing for me. It was something that I, at least for a brief time, wanted to play with my friends. It's like, oh, let's play Logan's Run, kind of thing.
Runner.
Right. Yeah, we can get to that. But
yeah, we'll get to that. That'll be interesting.
I remember there being an argument about who had to be Francis. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of a big thing, and I would say I'm at least a mild fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan too, but I mean, I didn't see it when it first came out. Of course, I was too young. Like, that was before Star Wars, even. When it's in the theater. So I saw it. I don't know, maybe on TV in the '80s or something. I don't remember for sure, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on TV in the U.S. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing it and going, "Oh, that's just pretty." It's kind of cool. So the big thing for me that I like, I'm a little bit. We'll get to this part, but I think the ending's a little weak. The ending's a bit weak, but I do like the costuming and everything. It's so 70s, eh?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wow, boom, let's take the 70s. Wham.
Okay. You know what? The the civilians and everything were the Sandman outfits. I think actually kind of stand up pretty well, and I think are pretty cool. It's basically they have like kind of a black, black shirt and pants, and they have some kind of smock over it that has like this big gray.
No, they got the gray thing in the center.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that's like an over piece. That's a secondary piece.
Oh, is it? I thought.
Yeah, it's like a vest or something, or it's like a over the head vest, because it like
really,
if you watch them, it like hangs down below their waist a little bit. It's like their belt goes over it, and it's like a kind of like a tunic, almost like a short tunic. Yeah, well, good. Pay attention next time, bro.
I'll have to pay more attention. Properly chastised.
I know you probably want to avoid this, but we should point out that Logan's Run is based on a novel, a science fiction novel.
It is.
That Snob has never read.
I haven't read it. I got to read it, man.
And
I think I've only been able to find the movie adapted book, but I don't want to read that. I mean, geez.
Yeah, I got on a kick of wanting to read some novels, the original novels of some things I like, namely Logan's Run and Planet of the Apes. Yeah. This was some 20-some years back or whatever. I kind of got into that, so I picked it up and read it. Because I'm an actual sci-fi fan, not like some fakes.
Yeah, a fan, but you got to be a snob. All right. Well, Greg is getting into it. Let's get right into He's starting to talk about the miniatures. And that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. So the opening sequence starts out with that model, and that model was, my understanding is that whole model was built. And that's an actual model that they built. They spent I don't know how long making it. And they got little trains and the little people in there. Everything.
Not the original Epcot. It's not Disney. They didn't borrow that from Disney.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
They actually built that giant model for the movie. I mean, you could tell it's a model when you're going through it at the beginning. If you look at the water, the water is obviously fake, but the other stuff is, it's pretty well done for that time, frame.
Well,
I thought,
wow, I mean,
pretty cool.
I forgot. It looked like it was in a in a shopping mall, basically. It was, yeah, at least that's the setting. Is it's some kind of, the interior. Okay, so they live in a domed city, is what it is.
Yeah. So the whole city is domed, and then the model is, within the dome of the right.
Right.
You can go out and that's we see that later when they see the sun. And they go, "What's that?" Okay.
Yeah, right. They've never seen the sun, which is a little strange because there is one scene where they're going up to the Sandman building or whatever, and it definitely looks like it's outside. Like as if you have sunlight. I guess it could just be lighting, of course. Interior lighting.
Well,
but it looks very distinct.
Yeah, it's because that was taken. The movie was shot a lot in Texas, in various places in Texas, primarily. So it's obviously was shot outside in Texas. I just kind of overlooked that and say, okay, well, it's because of whatever lighting system they have or whatever. But you're right. It's they just, hey, don't look at that. Right? Yeah. So the movie gets going pretty quick, right? Like it moves right into it. Like it starts out right off the bat. You've got Logan and Francis, and the baby with the white. You see the white life clock on its hand, and he's banging on there talking about, they've authorized a Logan 6, and I think that's him, right? And you get some stuff right off the bat where Logan is sort of asking questions that he's not supposed to ask because Francis is going, hey, you're not supposed to ask about that, and he says something like, oh, he's like, I think that's my Logan 6, it's from me, and Francis is like, you're not supposed to do that. And then they make a comment about the mother. He goes, why do you even know who the mother is? Like don't say mother, but who the female that. And then Logan looks at him and goes, I'm not gross. Like that's one step too much.
Yeah. Right? Well, see, when I originally saw the movie, I was like, oh, they were being very distinct. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be reincarnated into that baby, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what he's kind of suggesting.
Right. But it was much weaker suggestion than I remember it being. Because I'm watching here, it was kind of like, oh, maybe, it was much more nebulous, and the whole thing with, well, we'll get to that in a second. With,
and it's funny because Logan later on states he's got 4 years, so he's 26, right? So he's old, but so he's got, he's got 4 more years until he renews. So is he going to get into that? I guess they think you renew and get into the, even as a child they do, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that.
It's not. They don't make it very clear.
They did talk about how it was directly. It's like one person goes carousel and then another one's born. It was a direct 1-to-1. It was like they have a fixed population.
Yeah, fixed population for sure. Okay, so the next scene is that they start they go to carousel, and there's some discussion. I thought this was kind of interesting. There's a discussion on the way. They basically established that Logan is kind of a skeptic about stuff, and Francis is either a believer or he doesn't care to question it. And he says to him, he says to Logan, you wonder too much for a Sandman. That's one thing. And then they, interesting, they bump into, a Red bumps into Francis, and he kind of looks at him, he gives him this look. And the Red, lowers his head and turns away and kind of skulks off like he's afraid of him. So I thought that was interesting. And then Logan also says to him, oh, why do you care about that stuff? And then Francis says, he's going to run, I can tell, right? So, but it's, that's kind of interesting.
Quick note. Francis is played by Robert Jordan, who went on to play Duncan Idaho in the Dune 80s Dune.
Oh, really? That's him, eh?
Well, yep.
Yeah, just interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they go to Carousel. I thought it was kind of interesting. Carousel, like they first of all, like they obviously have some sort of zero gravity ability, right? Because the people start floating up. There's no strings on them or anything when they start floating up. And it's interesting
there's something that propels them upwards.
Yeah. Slowly. And they have like their faces are covered. So I mean, this isn't in the movie at all, but I'm like, why are their faces covered? They have them, maybe they have them, drugged up, or they can't scream or something like that, right? In order to make them like what we don't know what goes on behind before a carousel when they're getting them prepped, eh? So like, why would
Yeah.
they have these things on their faces so that they can't be seen, if they're crying or if they're upset or something like that? I'm not sure. I thought that
Well,
was kind of interesting.
yeah, it is. And again, when I first saw it when I was a kid, it was very creepy to me because they all kind of come out in these robes and their heads covered, in a hood
Yeah.
and everything. And so that's just kind of creepy to begin with. Um, and then they all come up there, then they like, they reveal, take their hoods down, and like you said, they're all wearing these faces or these masks, so you can't see their faces. So it's this kind of lifeless thing. And then they get rid of their robes, and they're wearing like these weird red and white bodysuits, which is also creepy. It was very,
Well, they kind of look like fire, right? Like
yeah, right.
it gave me that, like a flames sort of
Yeah,
sense. But
and it's again, I'm not totally clear on whether this is the entirety of it, because they're depicting a city which we don't really know how big it is, but they for the carousel they were announcing basically the date, and it's like, okay, basically the people born 30 years prior,
yeah,
this is all of them,
Capricorn, whatever,
right? And
29, I think they said, whatever they.
yeah, and it was, well, it was 42, 22, 42. Yeah, they named a month or something, and then a day, and then 22, 42, which would have been 30 years before the date of this, which is
Yeah,
22, 74.
20, yeah,
I'm
22,
sorry,
44,
44, right?
44.
Um, and anyway, so then but I mean, there were only what, maybe 25, 30 people there
Yeah,
at Carousel. So I
less than
mean,
50 for sure. Yeah,
right. So I mean, is this all of them? Are there more carousels going on throughout the day or in different places? I
yeah,
mean, because that would be saying their population is pretty darn small.
yeah.
Um,
We don't know, eh?
yeah. So
Um,
and that's a question I
but
had though, at that.
yeah, and I felt it was interesting because first of all, like there's you might not have noticed this, but then this like the people come out, and then this sort of like some sort of shimmering thing comes down beside them,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
around them. It
right.
keeps
Yeah,
them
it's
in
like,
there, and then then one comes from the ground up and kind of goes up like a bit of a funnel.
right,
So maybe that was just an effect that was thrown in there by the filmmakers, but it could be to keep them in there. It could be, to make sure the power of whatever the thing that is disintegrating them doesn't, mistakenly hit someone in the audience or something like that. I'm not sure, but I was curious about that. I also find it interesting that even though Logan is the skeptic, once the things gets going and everybody starts cheering, he gets into it and he starts yelling "renew, renew," and even Francis does as well. Everybody
right.
is, and he
Yep.
appears to be into it.
Right. So from their perspective, this is like, oh, this is great. These people aren't dying. They're all just starting over. You know.
Yeah, but still, Logan's a bit of a skeptic, right? Like
Well, and that's the other thing too is
not
didn't
100%, I guess.
didn't they talk about, it's like, oh, there's a chance they renew?
Yeah, if they
It
have
wasn't
faith.
like 100%,
Yeah, if they have
right?
faith in there, be strong and you will be renewed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just a way to get them to, accept their fate.
Right. And
And
so, when
if they question their fate, they're not going to renew, right? Like that's typical.
yeah, I guess, that's how they are dictating obedience. But so they go up there and they basically just disintegrate, they just get obliterated.
Yeah,
Um, when they, rise to a certain
that's
height, I
pretty
guess,
good
or something.
power. Like there's not even like dust or anything.
Right.
So okay, so and then so during the right some Logan's little walkie-talkie thingamajigger uh,
Yeah, it's like a cell
chirps
phone.
and he takes off. I mean, it's kind of funny. He sees it, and he goes. He doesn't tell Francis, even though he's sitting right beside him.
Well, he got a call. It was his.
It was his call.
Yeah, it was like a little text message he got.
Yeah,
That said, runner wherever.
yeah, but he doesn't say anything, and he just goes. I thought that was kind of strange. That wouldn't you, like, if you were a policeman or something, and you got a call, you'd like hit your buddy, hey, come with me, help me out, right? Like he just sort of goes, and Francis sort of follows him. But so then we get the scene where they're dealing with the runner. Now I felt this was a very interesting scene because
Yeah.
they toy with the guy.
Right.
Like they are they come up. The two of them come across as very cruel to me.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
they're enjoying.
purposefully shooting beside him, and that quote that I said, "Come on, run, runner!" Like this, the way that they say it, they're like, "Yeah, we want the chase a little bit." They're like a cat playing with the mouse. They're playing with their food.
Right. Yeah, and they do. They chase him down, and they kind of they're laughing. They're literally laughing at certain points, and you see them, and they have like these crazed looks of excitement.
Yeah,
So it was very very clearly that they and then
they
okay,
might be
well I'm sorry to interrupt
psychopaths
you.
or sociopaths,
Well,
right? Like,
yeah, well, okay. So you want okay? So they get him right. They eventually,
well,
actually, they don't. They okay. Sorry.
we
Say,
don't know. So we see the guy and he falls off like the third story or whatever in the mall type area and hits the ground, right? And then later, Francis or Logan says to him when they're checking his body and stuff. Logan says, "That was a good shot you made," and he says, "Well, you kept missing." So it's kind of implied that Francis is the one who shoots him, and then he falls over, but we don't actually see that, right?
right.
So we don't know for sure.
Also, at that point, when they're coming around to him, it's like, oh, that was a good run. It was like, yeah, this was. I mean, again, reinforcing that this was fun. This was like,
Yeah,
uh,
good point.
it was good. It's sport. I mean, it was sport.
Yeah, it was like a sport for them. So
Pretty
I thought that
pretty.
was a little disturbing.
Yeah, it is. They're psychopaths. I mean, well, let's think about that for a second. They're not sociopaths because they are working within their society. But from an objective view, they're well, they're from our view, they're murdering these people, right?
Yeah, I mean they're doing what their job is.
Right, but I'm saying they don't see it as kill. Now, what? Okay, another thing they said, it was important. It was like, after the guy's dead,
Yeah,
they're like, what a waste. It's like all he
he
had to do is go to, he could
he
have
could have
renewed it,
renewed.
and now he's gone forever. That's what
That's right.
they said.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, okay, so
but they do seem to enjoy their job a little too much, right? Like,
yes, right,
it's their
and
job, but they're like, getting into it and they're being cruel to the guy, right? Like just
yeah,
terminate him.
and like when Francis ran the other guy, it was like, yeah, you could tell he enjoys his authority.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so yeah, that tells you why this is important. Is it's telling you about the society.
yeah,
That
yeah. And
well,
it's
maybe,
done well. It's done quickly and well. Like
yeah,
we're barely into the movie and we've already got the gist of what's going on here.
yeah. Before I was going to talk more about society, but maybe we should go to the next scene because that
Yeah.
helps
Before
portray.
we do, I wanted to mention just quickly. I thought the body breakdown
Hmm.
was kind of a good little shot there. Eh? Like
Yeah,
it's not too.
they called in a cleanup crew that basically came
Yeah,
by and like sprayed the guy, and he
and
just disintegrates.
yeah, instantly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, it's not really that important, I don't think, but that was interesting. Okay, so next scene you want that's the next scene I had down here is we first meet Jessica and going on the circuit their version of
Tinder.
swiping left and right.
Well, okay, so it's Logan's house or wherever he
His
lives, his
apartment, yeah,
apartment. Yeah. So he's there, in his very 70s stylish poncho robe thing.
Well, go on to that. I wanted to mention it's interesting that even when he's in home in his pajamas or whatever the hell he's wearing, it still has him as a Sandman. It's still got the same
Yeah,
colors, right?
right.
Like they cannot wear anything. They don't have any clothes that don't denote what they are, whether it's red, a red, a green, a yellow, or a Sandman. Like he's always that. He can't. He's never not that. I think that's what they're trying to get across, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, okay. So, we mentioned again, Francis mentioned a red, and Jessica's always wearing green. And but did they explain that anywhere? If they did, I missed it. Where it was like,
No, they
what are
don't
these
explain
colors?
it, but it's obvious that like babies are white. Then there's the yellows, which go
Oh,
to
it's because of their crystal. I
yeah,
didn't.
it's a
I
crystal and it's
I
their
missed
age
that.
too, right? Right. Remember the yellows go until about 16, and then they go green, and at some point they go from green to red. We don't know for sure. I was assuming it's around 22 that they would go
Well, no,
from,
they should be 10. They should be 10 years. It should be thirds. So it should be 0 to 10, 11 to 20, and 21 to
well, no,
30.
because remember, there's a scene coming later, and they talk about the guy who's a cub, and they say
Yeah.
he's about to go green. And how old are you? 15?
Oh yeah, you're
You're
right.
about to go green. You're not. They're going to kick
Yeah.
you out.
Well,
So 16 is when they go green.
Jessica also mentions that it's like a year before she goes red or something. So,
She has time. Yeah. I
so
assume she
she's
was 22, but she's probably maybe younger. Like it was around 22, but that's just roughly.
yeah.
I could be wrong. She's
Okay.
obviously young.
In
doesn't matter.
the book, maybe that's where I got this idea, because in the book it was very specifically 1/3. Well, first of all, the
Yeah,
book
but
only
in the
goes to
book,
21, but it
it's
was
21, right? So
it was yeah, it was 7, 14, 21. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Well, that's one of those things. I sometimes have this blind spot where I don't pick up on things like the color. It's like, so
yeah.
yes. Okay. Jessica is
So
a green.
yeah. So just quickly, Death Angel Shadow. I can't remember at the beginning of the movie. It's 2272 or 74. I think it's
74.
74. And then they say 2244 is when those people are because they'd be 30 years old. It says it in the opening crawl what the thing is. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. I was just saying about the colors. It's just one of those things that I never registered with me.
Yeah. So 4 colors, except for the Sandman, though. Of course, they don't.
Yeah, they were black and gray.
Yeah. So
obviously they still have the crystal, like everybody else.
yeah. So Jessica, and we meet her in the circuit teleporting. We get we obviously get the sense that it's a very hedonistic society, and they're only, and sex is obviously one of their main pastimes. I mean, if you're putting yourself on this, circuit, and it's like a teleportation thing, that's that's another pretty advanced, technology.
Yeah, and it's, well, another thing with that, again, I guess it's completely hedonistic because there's no indication that anybody has jobs other than the Sandman.
Well, that's not 100% true. Obviously, the doctor we meet later,
yeah, that's true. Job. Yeah,
and Holly, Farrah Fawcett's Holly, she assists him.
Yeah,
so she kind of has a job, but other than that, and I guess the cleanup crew guys have a job.
Yeah,
but
you're right. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, like, it doesn't appear that anybody else has what else are they doing for work? Like, other than that, we don't see anybody else. We don't see anybody selling anything. Like, there's no, we don't know. If anybody has a job, it's very, very few people.
Yeah. And incidentally, I just a quick calculation there. If let's say there were 35, 40 people in Carousel, and that was all of them for that day, that means their population will be somewhere 12,000, 15,000 kind of thing.
Yeah, but again, there could be a couple different carousels in different buildings or whatever, right? Yeah. Michael, welcome. Good to see you. Okay. I always thought all births were artificial in the book where females giving birth. I think they're all artificial. I think that Logan is only talking at the beginning about thinking it's it's Logan, it's his genetics, because I'm assuming they would all have to give some sort of they would make the genetic donation. Either the eggs and sperm would be harvested at some point.
Apparently, they're doing that every day.
Yeah, I mean, but they might have to actually go into the medical people and anyway.
Okay, so he's ordering up. He's checking out Logan's Run air at Tinder. He pulls up a dude first, and he kind of just shakes his head, waves that off.
Swipe.
And then Jessica shows up.
And it's a very interesting discussion with her, right? Mm-hmm. Like he has this, and he's kind of a little bit pushy, and she's like, no. And he's like, come on, like as if no one's ever said no before.
Well, I think that was the exact point. And at some point he's like, what are you doing here then? It's like, why are you on the circuit? This is what this is for.
Why are you on Tinder if you don't want to go on a date?
Yeah. So right. It's like that, clearly that's what's going on here.
But this is where we get,
she starts in on him kind of.
Yeah. She asks some questions, makes him think about these. I mean, he defends defends the society that they're in, right? He's like
right.
he's
Well,
like the Francis when
yeah,
if she's asking.
she talks about, well, you kill people, don't you? And he says, I never killed anybody. I never ever killed anybody.
Yeah, I
He's
terminate
like I
runners.
terminated, right? Exactly. So again, in their
And she
society,
says nobody renewed. She goes, I'm upset. My friend was he was
well,
killed today.
yeah, that's the guy they killed, right?
No, he was
It
in
wasn't.
Carousel. My friend went on
Oh, it was in
Carousel,
Carousel. Okay.
and he says, oh well, he had a chance to renew, and she's like, he wasn't renewed. He was killed.
Mm. Yeah, and he says something like "killed." Why would you use that word? It's like,
Yeah,
uh, so they're clearly, well, from our perspective, brainwashed, but they're indoctrinated into this system being, what it is. Because I mean, why would anyone stick with it if it wasn't? It's like, yeah, everybody's just dying, and you're prematurely dying. Be hard to
yeah,
keep people
they're
into that.
believers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good scene because it kind of got all that stuff out, and of course, Francis comes in with two
Couple of greens.
chicks who are much more willing, and Jessica sneaks out.
Right, and then in which he throws an orb, breaking it, spraying what's apparently narcotics all over the place.
Yeah, was that, you think that was narcotics or it was just yeah, I wasn't sure, but could very well be. Yeah, so then we go to the next. Let's go move to the next scene. So the next scene is the next day when Logan and Francis are going and they're dropping off the items they took from the runners and basically checking in to headquarters. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because when they kill the guy, they go and they take whatever he's got on him off.
Because I guess that can't be disintegrated. Maybe only their clothing and organic matter.
Oh, we should also mention that Logan, when he after the guy was terminated, he scanned him or whatever, and he came up and he looked different.
Oh right, that was a good important point. He looked different, and then that's where we get the new U-483, where I think it was where he got changed. And there's a little note that hey, who would do what nobody would do a face change on last day for a guy, right? Who's blinking because he's supposed to renew. They wouldn't do it, but somebody did it. So there's maybe a little hint that there's maybe some rebels or some sort of underground going on.
Right.
I thought it was very interesting. I mean, I'm assuming that this place is being run by some sort of AI or computer type of thing.
Well, yeah, we find that out when at least it appears to be that when Francis goes to report hit one of his kills or something, and it's just kind of routine, and then Logan goes in to report his kill, which is this guy from the night before.
Yeah,
and this is, again, so he's interacting with the computer.
Yeah, so they send in Francis first, so we see how it's supposed to go, and then Logan comes in afterwards, and we realize that his experience is totally different than what is the normal experience, right? Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that?
About Logan's experience?
Yeah.
So he goes and he puts the stuff. There's this little table, where they put their things in, and there's like this light goes around and kind of scans it, and this. So we saw what happened with Francis. He puts it in, it just says da da da, kind of routine. He walks out. So Logan does that, and then it's like it's not working. He's kind of like, what's going on, And then the computer instructs him to come forward and sit down. So he sits in this chair, and it starts going over this stuff, and tells him, to log in basically, which is they use their the crystal in their hand, and so it identifies them and everything. And then the computer starts talking about that he's got he's this special assignment that he's to find sanctuary. He's going to be he's assigned to go see what's going on, where these runners are disappearing, and it turns out there's, what was it, 1056 or something runners that got away apparently. And then so it says right. And it gives him like a code or something that says, it's his assignment or something. It's, and then he's like, well, how can I do that? I don't, my crystals, and he's supposed to go he's supposed to become a runner. He's instructed to do this, and he's like, "How am I supposed to do that? I got 4 years left." And so they're like, "Oh, here, we'll put your hand on the thing," and then basically it turns his crystal. So it's blinking red, which means he's on last day or approaching it or whatever. And so he's like, "Well, I'm going to get my 4 years back, right?" And it just says nothing.
Right.
It doesn't answer him. And he's like, maybe this isn't such a great idea,
I thought this was a great scene, and it helped to, like, I mean, Logan, I mean, it's a machine, so it doesn't give a crap about people, of course, but Logan he's given the motivation that he needs to do the job, because otherwise, he's blinking. Otherwise, and no one's going to question it. That if he said to Francis, "Hey, but I still had 4 years left," they're like, "Oh, you sure? I guess not." Like, nobody really, how close do they track their birthdays and stuff, right? You might think,
right.
Oh, the computer can't be wrong. If you're blinking, then it's time for you to go. So it's great motivation. He really has to do the job because he's got no choice, because Francis and the other Sandman will try to kill him, which will give him some legitimacy in the eyes of the rebels or whoever they are, that he's running, because they'll be chasing him, and and he's got no choice, right? I got to find this place, because if I don't, someone's just going to shoot me. So
right.
Yeah.
So then it's like, he's kind of shaken by this, but he goes and has Jessica tracked down somehow and brought to him.
Yeah. This is basically his, I mean, he learns that everything he believes is wrong here, right? He goes, "How many people have renewed? Has anyone been renewed?" Right? And the question has been answered, Logan 5. And then you didn't give me an answer. Yeah, I didn't answer you got the answer because I didn't say anything, right? So he is basically, his worldview is completely destroyed. He does pretty good, for having his worldview destroyed, because but he doesn't fall apart. But it's surprising. He's like, in this little scene, he learns everything he believes is wrong. Nobody gets renewed. You can just change the life clock whenever you want. What the heck is going on?
Right. So, yeah. So now suddenly he's
Steve, welcome.
his arrogance and devil may care attitude suddenly becomes real, right?
Yeah.
So, so now it's like, well, his only way out is through. So he proceeds to try and complete this mission. So, and Jessica is the only thing is his only lead, really. So he goes and meets with her, and there were a few other revealing things. Again, she's brought to him, and she's like, "Oh, you you basically can get what you want, right?"
Yeah.
And so it gives there's a little darker overtones here to the Sandmen.
Yeah.
Because again, she walked out on him, from the Tinder thing.
But he can still have somebody grab her and bring her to his place,
right.
So without any explanation, really.
Right, but so he just kind of dumps. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to run," and she's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he is trying to convince her of this.
Yeah.
And says, "Okay, I know, because again, she was talking about this runner stuff, and she said, 'Oh, I'm not a runner. I just, I'm questioning or whatever.'" But he's like,
but she's wearing the ankh around her,
right,
neck,
which the computer tells him is, a symbol of sanctuary.
Yes.
So,
it's his only lead, right?
Right. So he's like, go ask your friends. I need help. I need, to get the sanctuary. I need to know where to go. So she's like, well, she doesn't really believe him, but then she goes, well, go ahead. You can.
She goes and tells her friends, and they basically plan to kill him.
Right. Yeah, because they don't trust him. They're like, I'm not gonna trust
him. And these guys are they don't seem to be great, great operatives.
Yeah, they're again. Well, some parallels to the real world about a lot of tough talking people who have, fancy themselves rebels and resistors and such that have no clue about any such thing.
But so while Jessica, in the middle of Jessica taking him to be killed, and I don't know how successful they would have been. He gets another call for another runner at Cathedral, right? And so he decides to go and Well, he says that they shouldn't come. She shouldn't come, which is a mistake because if he needs to, if he needs to go and get this runner and not kill her, it could use it to show her that he's true. But she wants to come anyway. She goes, I want to stick with you. So they go, and we find out that Cathedral is a place for it's for the delinquents, children who don't want to operate in society properly. They're violent or something like that, and so they put them in Cathedral, lock them up in there, and they just sort of hang out there until they decide. I mean, it seems a little strange.
Yeah, I found that whole thing bizarre, and it's like I have a lot of questions about it. It's like, well, what do they go and drag them out of there and kill them, or what
do they eat?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that it was very weird.
And they only stayed out there till 16, though, right? They're called cubs. We meet
guess.
Mary. Mary's a little kid. Mary's like, I don't know, 6 or 8.
Okay, here's the question: do they kill each other?
It's implied by Logan that at 16 they're going to be kicked out, right? Like he says to the guy Billy.
Yeah.
The guy who cut the Sandman.
Yeah.
I cut a Sandman yesterday. Yeah, like you're almost going to go green. You're going to, they're not going to. The rest of them aren't going to let you stay here when you go green. What are you going to do? Kill you, or you'll have to leave. So, yeah, it's kind of what's going on. Like, how do the kids living there? This is another look into the darker portion of this society.
Yeah, there's another thing that I might be mixing up between. Okay, there was a Logan's Run comic that came out back in the day that I read, and then there was something I think in the novel as well. And again, I'm not remembering exactly where this came from, but it was the Cubs were hopped up on some sort of drug that made them like super strong, and it's like it basically would kill you. Yeah, again, I don't remember if it was the novel or the comic or both, but it's like only the very young could take it, and again, I'm pretty sure it was in the novel or maybe the comic based on the novel. There was also that in addition to the Marvel one that was based on the movie, but it was something like, they were like 7 years old or something, these kids, but they were on this particular kind of drug that where they, it like hyped them up into like these, feral creatures. I mean, they're pretty feral in the movie, but they were like a lot worse in the other one.
Yeah. Weatherman. Yeah, I played that RPG Paranoia. It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So we'll skip over this real quick. They go to the Cathedral. We learn about the Cubs in this, aspect of society, and they're just kids. Cause the funny thing is, I saw about this is that, Logan isn't really that, I mean, he's concerned, but he's not really that concerned. Like they're all out there and they're waving stuff and he's, he doesn't point at them and shoot them right off the bat. He obviously thinks they're not that much of a threat, and he does fire at them later to scare them off, but he's obviously like, he's like, they're kids, and doesn't seem too concerned, but he uses the ability to find the runner and not kill her while Jessica's there. So, I think he's building up legitimacy with this. My question about Logan is, and I'm, I don't expect you to answer this, Kim, but when is the difference? It's really hard to tell throughout the movie when is he doing his mission versus he's been converted and he's not, he's actually wants to find sanctuary. He realizes that, this society sucks and, he wants to get out of it. It's not super clear when that happens, right? So anyway, we can talk about that as we go on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's clearly when he was in the with the computer, it shook him up there, but it doesn't seem at this point that he's really.
He still seems to be following the mission.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, so we have that. Francis follows them, shoots the runner, and they head back. And then he decides to go to New U 438, which is a hotbed of rebellion and rebels and various anti-government forces. So kind of interesting. There, the doctors there, they're able to see the doctor right away, and they're all like, "Oh, it's rare that a runner or that a Sandman comes in," and we're all very, they're very interested in that sort of thing. So he goes in for just a face job, and he goes to the same place that that the other runner went to get his face that we saw in the beginning. And it's very interesting that, this is where we first see Farrah Fawcett comes in, Holly character. And, she's talking to him. She doesn't appear to be super bright. Tell him dark hair. She's playing a little bit of ditzy. But I found it interesting that, Jessica's sort of standing outside and the doctor comes up to him and says, why'd you bring him here? Like, he obviously is a rebel. He knows that they both know each other, that they're rebels. And he's, he talks, why'd you bring him here? And she's like, I didn't have a choice. He wanted to come here, right? And he's like, I wish you brought him anywhere else. So, she's pretty much in there and they all know each other. No comment about that?
No, I think you're right.
Okay, so we want to go. Do you want to go into this part quickly? The other thing I found interesting is that he started to talk to him and he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll do it." And then the phone rings and he just picks up the phone and like the rebels seem to be a little more knowledgeable about what's going on than we think. They're following Jessica because they know that the Sandman is there. They know he knows about Sanctuary, and they call up the doctor and they say, "Yeah, kill him." And the doctor's like, "Okay, no problem." It's not like I'm worried. How am I going to cover this up? Am I going to get in trouble? No, he's like, you betcha. Off we go. Let's kill this guy. So they seem pretty committed.
They also mentioned that it's like he's like the second Sandman that's ever been in there or something.
Yeah, like he doesn't have a Sandman. So obviously Sandman don't come in and do that very often. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of Sandmen. They seem to be. Do you want to? I mean, didn't really want to spend too much time on the scene.
Well, I'll just say that again. It was a scene that kind of freaked me out when I was a kid. It's like, oh, there's a doctor, and now he's trying to murder you. So he tries to kill him.
He's a plastic surgeon. He's not a real doctor, right? So
okay, sure. But it's basically it's this chamber that he's in, and it has all these lasers and stuff that are like it's basically slices you up and heals you like immediately. And they demonstrate that. It's like they cut his face and like heal it right back up. And so they're supposed to be doing this, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna use the machine to kill him. So that's what he tries to do.
Yeah, and they struggle, and of course the doc gets killed. And then they're trying to run away, and as they run away, Francis shows up and says, "Hey, why didn't you kill that runner?" And Logan, beats him up a little bit, and they take off.
Yeah, he's officially on the run now.
Yeah, Francis knows, and he's chasing him. And this is when they go through the love shop, which I thought was interesting because it immediately what you suggested before, the narcotics, like there's obviously all kinds of psychedelics in there because when Jessica and Logan come through, they start acting weird and they have trouble finding their way through the just getting through the shop.
I think it was
Francis
more,
does too.
I think it was more than that. I mean, there were people in there, that were engaged in, well, let's say, adult activities.
Extracurricular activities.
Yeah, this was a whole thing going on.
But before they even they're coming in and there are like the music and their
that's true. There was like this. There was like a mist and stuff that was those are going through the tunnel.
And I assumed that it was maybe it was a mixture of some sort of psychedelics plus maybe some sort of sonic thing that altered your state as well or something. But
maybe
anyway,
but
the point being that
they recovered from it though as soon as they got out of there. Though.
Yeah. So the point being is that they're under some sort of control. Well, not control. Some sort of mind altering something, right?
Yes. Weatherman mentioned they all had their super freak on. Yes.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. And Francis is affected too, right? And even though they're focused, they're like they're running for their lives. I thought that was interesting. So it hints again that kind of like Brave New World. These people are maybe drugged a lot, or at least at some point in order to get through their lives.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just again briefly, relating back to the novel, it was just like, yes, they're all taking recreational drugs all the time, kind of like Brave New World.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll push ahead. So this seems to be the catalyst to make Jessica believe Logan, and so she takes him to her rebel friends, and they go to this doorway, and they're scanned, they're being watched, and they're let in, and they're taken in, and they put it against this pillar, and they got their little spears, and they're pointing it at their face, and Logan tries to convince them that he is really trying to run. But just before that, the interesting thing is just before that, he presses some sort of button on his little device, and then we see a scene, and everybody in Sandman headquarters is like, "Oh, it's Logan 5. All right, get everyone together." And they're all like getting together to come down there. So he appears to be, he still appears to be on the mission at the time. He must think that he's about to go into Sanctuary, and he's calling in the troops, so to speak. Is that your impression as well?
Yeah. So this kind of answers your question. It's like, well, why would he do that if he wasn't, if he was really, um, sincerely trying to run?
Yeah, I found it interesting that they've got this, they've got these little sticks, and there's like they press a button and the gas comes out, and they're like, "Ow, ow!" Like, I don't know, pain gas or something. I'm not sure what we don't even get that. And then of course Holly shows up, and she's not very bright, obviously, and she seems to be easily manipulated as well. Like, she's like, "Oh, this happened, and Jessica's like, "No, remember the second Sandman came." She's like, "Oh yeah." Now, I mean, Logan did kill the doctor, right? Like, he killed him. I mean, the doctor was trying to kill him, but remember the other Sandman was there. She's like, "Oh yeah, okay," and that's enough for these guys to go, "Okay, I guess he's telling the truth." Of course, immediately, he wants to. They tell him how to move on. He doesn't want to take Jessica, and of course, just as that happens, the wall blows up, and all the rest of the Sandman attack. Start shooting everybody.
Yeah, right. Farrah Fawcett gets killed, and they start blowing everyone out. Just killing them all. So it's basically like the whole, well, at least whatever cell of this network, that's helping runners. They're just, getting rid of them. So
so they follow the thing, and they get to the last gate. And it's obvious that the other rebels have never been past the last gate. They just go to the last gate, and we don't know what happens next, right? Show them the Ankh, and then off you go. It's kind of, I guess they're afraid to go, or it's their job to stay and help people through. It's kind of unclear.
Right.
So they go through last gate. They go through the water. Francis is able to find the Ankh that Logan drops, and he's able to follow them. I guess I'm going to skip over this real quick. I don't, unless you want to mention anything about that. No. So the next is they get to the cold area with the robot box. Go ahead. I'll let you take. When I first saw this, I was like, how come it's cold here all of a sudden? What's going on?
Okay, there's a little bit more. Is they're Francis is hot on their tail, and the Ankh is the key to get through. So they get through the door. Well, Jessica had the Ankh on her necklace, and they drop that, and it goes into a this pool of water or something, and then so Logan pulls out the Ankh that he got from the runner he killed, the night before, and then so then they get through the door, and so they go, and it closes, and Francis is behind it. But then Francis retrieves Jessica's Ankh and opens it and comes. So then there's a scene where there's like, again, there's water and stuff. They're like in the bowels of the city here or whatever. So then there's something, and Francis shoots something, and then it opens something to some water source that's pouring in, and like, the water rushes through and like carries Jessica and Logan away. So they go some distance through something else, and they're able to get through some other door and close it.
And then that's when we get to all the cold.
Right. Well, yeah. They find themselves. They accidentally end up on an elevator.
Right. Elevator.
Sorry.
And they take the elevator up.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to sneeze there.
and then they get out, and they're like, they're starting to freeze. They're like, oh,
right
it's cold.
at the top of the elevator, they're suddenly freezing. So it's like, oh, what's going on? So then they're like, they don't know where they are even. Oh, that was the other thing, is they were told to go down. The instructions were keep going down, and so they
which they
started that.
did
Right,
until
until they got on the elevator, and then they ended up going up
yeah.
to, again, wherever this cold area is, and so they go there, and there's like furs and things there, and so they change out of their wet clothes into, these furs, and they're just kind of sitting there for a while, and discussing. Then this is when the robot shows up.
Box.
Yeah, which is a silvery, crazy looking. Uh, he's
And
got
there's a
arms
guy.
and a head, but
Yeah.
no legs. He's like a.
Fish and sea greens and plankton, protein from the sea.
Right, and he's basically he's talking about, it's like, what are you talking about? And then it's, well, go, you want to talk about it?
And he claims that, I don't know. He suggests that he's a mix of human and robot. So I don't know if maybe some sort of android, or I mean, maybe he's lying. Who knows? But the point is, I mean, I'll skip ahead, but we they're like, where are the other runners? And then he shows them that basically, Bach says, he obviously was some sort of, his task was to collect protein for the city through fish and plankton and that kind of stuff. But at some point, those things stopped coming.
But
And
people
then he
did
says,
start coming.
but people started coming. So the next thing we see is a whole hallway with all kinds of naked frozen people up. And he's like, well, I used to collect this, and they stopped coming, and these stopped coming. So I started collecting this for protein.
Right.
Like,
So
oh,
his
great.
programming is basically, he's just storing food.
Yeah. So my question is that, is he just storing that food, or is that food somehow defrosted at certain points, and that's been being fed back to the city?
Okay, that's the question, is if they're not getting food from some other source, then where's it coming from? Right.
Yeah.
Then where is it? But on the other hand, if there's only 1,056 runners, that's not going to provide food for any, amount of time. So
Yeah. No.
I don't know what's supposed to be going on there. My initial thought was, oh, he just froze these things, and they're not getting food from this place at all. This might have been something.
Yeah, he's saving them for whenever they, for when something comes and asks them for something.
Yeah, this might have been. I didn't get the idea that it was they were eating the people. I thought maybe this was some older system, to preceding them, because again, they don't seem to have any shortage of food, so they're clearly getting a regular supply of food in the city.
Yeah. So there's a fight scene. They escape Box. I will mention that they all the icicles and snow crashing down is kind of they obviously put that in afweards, like
it was like a
let's
bad
put
animation thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit dodgy animation, but we'll let it go.
So Logan fights the robot, it beats him, and then they're outside. They basically walk out.
Yeah. Oh, before that, I really like, Jessica is really like a 50s girl, because whenever Logan has to fight something, she generally just sort of stays back and watches and goes, oh.
Yeah, no girl boss in this movie.
There's no girl boss here, except at the very end where where we're going to get to with the old man and Francis. But generally, it's funny how she's just like, let me watch my man as he fights. It's kind of a bit of a throwback. But anyway, I just that's I wanted to mention that just for fun. It's not that important, but anyway, they escape Box, and then they see the sun. They're like, "Ooh, it's warm. What is that thing?" They've never seen the sun.
Right. So they then there's this. The movie takes kind of a strange shift at that point, right? It's like, oh, we're outside, and they're just like kind of walking around, and I thought it was funny because immediately, they walk a little distance and they sit down for a second, and like a lizard like crawls up on Jessica or something, and she's just like, I hate the outside. It's like basically she's like, I'm ready to go back. But Logan's kind of like, he's like, we gotta find sanctuary.
Yeah. So okay. So they basically take 2 days to get to Washington D.C. So they spend the night in a tree, and I'm kind of, this is the part where I'm like, okay, is Logan still on his mission, or is he actually doing this because he agrees? I'm not sure. He's escaped all this stuff. I mean, he's had to fight the robot and all that stuff, otherwise he'd be killed. But I'm not sure if is he. I'm not sure where he is myself now.
Okay, you know what? Actually, I think did we talk about that? Francis confronts him again and was basically like, "Get rid of her." What are you doing?
That was that was just right after the
when they invaded the
Sandman attack, like before they go through the gate.
Right.
So, and he says that, and she's a runner, shoot her. I think that at that point, we're going back, but at that point, I think that he's got some feelings for her now, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's like, oh, send her back. I don't want her to come with me to Sanctuary. It could be dangerous. He either says that because he is concerned about her danger. Plus, maybe he doesn't want to know that he's still betraying her. But then the Sandman attack, and he's got to take her with him. Otherwise, if she's there, she's going to get shot by these guys for sure, right? Or something. So it's kind of a little fuzzy. No.
Yeah, it is. But my opinion, my take on it, is I guess what I'm saying is you could make an argument, but to me, after the attack, even though he called them in after the Sandman attack, it seemed like he was on the run at that point.
That's the part where he's changed his mind.
I guess, I mean, maybe. It is nebulous, but that's how I took it.
He just brought him in, though. Like he just brought them in. I was going to change his mind pretty quick. I'm not sure. I think that, I tend to agree with you, but yeah. I mean, there's a couple other things. We're kind of skipping over the whole. They basically spend 2 days walking in the wilderness. They notice that their life clocks are clear. They have some
swim, and then they're
they're swimming naked, and it's assumed that they have sex or something. So they're getting closer to each other and stuff. So maybe they're developing. I mean, she obviously likes him already, but maybe he's developing some fondness or something for her at the same time. They're trucking through the wilderness. They're sharing hardship together. He's helping her. It's like, okay, you can keep going, that kind of stuff. So maybe in that, it's not super well shown, but maybe that those 2 days are kind of them getting closer together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Well, definitely from Jessica's side, and I think it's mutual though at that point. But by the time their first night outside.
Okay, so Greg C says he might have been having second thoughts here or there, but I think he's made up his mind. When lasers were trying to cut him into pieces, was that the lasers in the? I don't think you mean the lasers in the new you, the plastic surgeon, because after that is when he hits the button to let the Sandman know where he is. But I'm not sure where you mean for that.
Well, if I was just watching this and he didn't hit the button thing, I would have been like, oh yeah, he's totally on to this right now. But I mean, I could say the same thing right after his life crystal got changed too. It was like, wait, something's wrong here. So again, he might be kind of vacillating a little bit. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay, so they walk, and they obviously come to Washington D.C.
Yeah, they see the Washington Monument in the distance.
Washington Monument. They go to the Lincoln Memorial, and eventually they come to the old man, who I assume is in the Library of Congress. Is that
no? He's correct? In the Senate. He's in the Senate chamber.
Oh, he's at the Senate chamber. Okay, well, the Americans should.
Right. So and this is kind of a fairly long scene. Like I said, the pace of the movie kind of shifts. They go outside, and it's just like, oh, there's a little romp, and so they run across this guy. This old man. It's played by Peter Ustinov. I think he was something like in his 50s or something. Actually, at the time, I'll look that up as we're going here. But so they have this rather long conversation with him, and he's kind of. He's a little wacky, because he hasn't lived with anybody. It's kind of funny that he could even speak at that point. Yeah, he hasn't lived with anybody since we find out since his parents died.
Yeah, so it seems that his parents must have escaped, 50 years earlier or something, some amount of time, 50 to
or they
60
were
years
never
earlier.
there.
Or they were never there.
Yeah, I think
And
that was what I took, was that they were never part of, that society. They
I
weren't
assume
outside.
that they were, and they had escaped because they kind of think that nothing can survive outside. I assume that they were there, and they just never told him about the city because they didn't. They were.
It could be.
But it could be either or. We don't know. Weatherman, that's a good point you're making there.
Well,
But Sandman's sadistic or sadistic.
well,
Yeah.
let's take a little bit of a tangent there to think about that. It's like, again, there's a small number of people, let's say less than 50,000 people in this city. Where is the rest of the world's population? Were they all wiped out? Was this like a thing where these people were in a vault somewhere, and then this happened, and then they were moved here? We don't know how in the movie. We don't know. We don't know how it led to this exactly.
Well, the opening crawl says that due to overpopulation, pollution, and viruses or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
I'd have to go check it again. But it's just it's a blurb.
Yeah, but we don't know the details of how it developed. And now in the book, the society is much larger. There are like multiple locations in which the society lives.
Multiple cities.
Yeah. Whereas in
And
this one, it's
could be, but we don't know that in the movie.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on. Could there be someone, in another part of the world? We don't know. But anyway, so they run across this guy and they talk to him. It's just him and a bunch of cats out there. and he's kind of a whimsical bit of a character. I mean, he's not hostile at all. And he doesn't seem scared of them at all.
What the heck does he eat?
Well, that's a good question, but he's living in a ruin. Again, the Senate chamber, it's like the roof is open, partially caved in. Everything's overgrown with like vines and such. But other than that lizard, I don't know that we see any indication, in the cats, that we don't really see any other indication of life. At one point, they're like walking through a swamp or something. Again, DC is naturally a swamp.
Yeah, I assume that was just part of what's the in DC where they have
You're
that
talking about the reflecting pool.
The reflecting pool, yeah.
It might be, but I think it was
the Forrest Gump pool, I call it.
Yeah, they also show him like walking through a town where there's like houses, like abandoned houses and things.
Yeah, I assume that was the outskirts of DC somehow, but you're right, it doesn't really track. But anyway,
right. So again, we don't really know about much of that, but it's there weren't like alligators that attacked him or anything like that. It was and wolves or any there was not like abundant wildlife that we saw. We just saw a few things.
Death Angel Shadow says that the old man eats the cats. Maybe.
Well, okay, so maybe. Yeah, we don't really know, but who knows? There might be apples and things growing, around.
Yeah.
But so they have this discussion, and he basically, tells him about, he had a mother and father, which they don't. They run across a graveyard at one point, and it's like, well, apparently they could speak English or read English. Because they read, it's like it says, "Oh, beloved wife and beloved husband" or something. Like, what is that?
They can read those words,
right? They read those words, but they had no idea what they meant. So and then so the old guy, explains, "Oh yeah, I had a mother and father," and they're like, "Oh, you knew your mother?" Or, so he's, yeah, and how long he's been there, and so they're trying to get this information, and he's kind of like, I don't know, he basically says, it's like, how long have you been here? He says, well, longer than I can remember, or implying that forever. And there was something else he said in regards to that, and I guess he said, he hasn't seen anybody since his parents died, so he's and throughout this, he basically talks to Jessica and says that he wants them to bury him, when he dies. That's kind of his only interest, in this. And Jessica kind of says yes, and then Logan's like, no, we're leaving, we're going back.
We're waiting for this guy to die.
Right. And then so he's kind of upset by that. But then he's like, well, no, we'll take you with us. We'll go back together so everybody can see you, and then you could see all these people. And he was kind of excited. He's like, oh, okay, that's that appealed to him, that he wanted to see more people.
Yeah. Just a couple of just a little. Okay, so if they're cats and they're rats, when they're walking back, the old man refers to that they used to live in these houses, but then they ran out of mice for the cats to eat, so we had to go to a bigger spot. So, yeah, and that's just a sort of side. But we got to get to the Francis fight.
Oh, right? Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
Well, Francis, continued tracking them down and comes and finds them in the Senate. And he snatches Jessica and drags her away up into the gallery, and then is basically admonishing Logan. He's like, "What are you doing? You should have come back. When you had the chance." Da da da. So then he jumps down there, or Logan. They kind of mouth off at each other, and he jumps down and attacks Logan, and they have a hand-to-hand combat fight
with the American flag.
Yeah, at one point,
America.
Francis grabs the flag and is using it like a spear or a flagpole. He's using it like a spear, and then eventually Logan gets it and beats him to death. Gives him a couple of cracks across the head and then across the back, and Francis, he expires. Terminated.
That's when they decide to go back.
Yeah,
and I think I think I like this part. Jessica's like, no, we should stay. I want to stay here. And he's like, and Logan's like, no, I can't just leave all those people there to be killed, and they need to know the truth. And I'm like, yeah, stand up for your purpose, man. Don't let the chick get you from your purpose.
Yeah, well, you know what? There is a important point here, I guess, and that's that. When they're talking to the old man, they're like, "Well, where's Sanctuary? Can you tell us where it is?" And he's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." And so then Logan realized there is no Sanctuary, and he's like, he tells Jessica, "There's no Sanctuary," and then she's kind of like, "Well, yeah, there is," and he says, "No, okay." Then that's when they say they got to go back, and then so they agree, they're gonna go back in the morning, and take the old man with them, which they do. So they show them basically retracing their steps, going through the town, going through the swamp, or I don't think it was Reflecting Pool. It seemed to be farther away, but and then they camp out, one night. They got a fire and everything, and they're sitting there, and the old man's kind of
babbling.
But again, he seems very kind of excited about the whole thing. And then they find their way somewhere back to where the city is. Again, it takes them a couple days to get there. And they end up in a place maybe where they were supposed to go in the first place, at the bottom. If they would have gone down, that's where they would have made it to.
They're walking along a beach, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
And the city is there, and they're trying to, they're like, we got to find a way in. How do we get in?
Yeah, at the very beginning, they do show the city like being on the coast, right? Or built out over the water or something, or
or some sort of body of water.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, like they're in the Potomac area, I guess, because it's not like you walk to Washington D.C. from
the city is 2 days away from Washington because it's one overnight for sure.
Right. And so, well, I was going to say maybe this was where they were supposed to get out. There's like a water treatment place or something, this kind of waterfall
or water power, like tidal generation, power generation, something like that.
Right, but I guess we found out that nobody ever got out. They all somehow ended up in the ice place. All the runners that got away ended up there. Presumably, we don't really know for sure, but I guess no one went down. Maybe that was a lie. Maybe they were misleading him. There was no way down.
Well, they wouldn't know because no one ever's come back, right? So
yeah, right.
Go down, down, down. That's all we know. Someone told us.
Yeah. So maybe down, you get to the elevator no matter where you go. maybe that's it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So they basically jump into this pool and ridiculously start pulling off these grates and things and going through these pipes, having no idea where they're going. But and apparently
not knowing how long they can hold their breath or
right.
So this is I said earlier that I think the ending is a little weak. I think this is where it starts to get weak. Oh, there's some water. We'll just try to find our way back in.
Yeah, they don't explore. They don't even take a look and come back up. They just go.
And then, of course, they make it.
Yeah, luckily they come inside into some pool, and then they make their way back up into the city, where there's a carousel starting. And you want me to keep going, or you want
to? Yeah, just before that, I'm just gonna, Greg. Yeah, you're right. The movie was shot in Texas. And that is a real fountain in Texas. There's some sort of water that they used.
Yeah, I did see something on that at some point, but I want to say that there's something like people died there or something too. It's like some kind of you know, someone fell in the water, and it was like it's this thing where it's like you basically the water. The way the water runs is you can't ever get out. You know, it'll just hold you down. Now, I might be mixing that up with something else, but I think that might have been that same place. Um, but I guess they made it for the movie. I don't know. I might
Yeah.
be I might be thinking of
Yeah,
something else.
we're gonna go real quick over this last part because it's pretty
Yeah. Go ahead.
fast.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so they're in the city, and they're up on the balcony, you know, in the mall wherever they were filming this, and Logan starts running. Oh, you know, this you don't have to die or whatever, and everybody kind of looks at him for a second, and he says,
They
we've
laugh.
seen it, and they just kind of they kind of turn around and just start going back, and then Jessica tries yelling at him, and
He seems a little unhinged when he's yelling.
yeah,
Like a little more than
he's like a preacher or something. Um, anyway, uh, so then a bunch of Sandman run up and grab them. So they get arrested. And you want to take off from here?
Yeah, so they get arrested. They take him to the and again, I think this is a little weak as well. So they take him into the AI computer room, whatever they whoever's running the city, whatever that machine is. He set him down, and instead of they talked about surrogation, which I assume is some kind of interrogation that they can do. They don't have to ask him questions. They can sort of read his mind. And we see that they start, delving into his mind and asking him questions. And you can see there's I think about 4 different sort of versions of him come up. And they go, where is sanctuary? And, no sanctuary. And he keeps saying that. And, what about this question, old man? And, so whatever question they ask him. And the computer doesn't seem to like those answers for some reason. I don't know why. But it basically says that does not compute, and it blows up because the answers are not the answers that Logan is giving. His experiences are not what was supposed to happen according to the computer. So the computer blows up. I don't know. That's
yes.
That's the way I want to.
It's that classic. You give it an unsolvable problem, and it'll destroy any computer. We're going to need that for the AI coming up. But
yeah, like I thought it was pretty weak.
So apparently the computer system going bad starts major explosions around the city, and it opens the doors to the outside.
Yeah, the room starts crashing in. The headquarters for the Sandman starts blowing up. The power goes off. Logan jumps up. Beats a guy, grabs his gun, and they start shooting everybody. Kills all the other Sandmen and runs off.
Yeah,
and things start exploding, and the next thing he brings. Am I missing something? He brings Jessica, and the people all come out, and they find Peter Ustinov, the old man, waiting for them. They asked. I mean, we didn't mention this before. They asked him to wait here as long as you can. We're going to try to bring out the young people. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's about it.
And he's sitting out there. It's kind of getting dark. All these young people show up.
He made a little fire for himself.
Yeah, this one girl comes up, and she's like looking at him like, "What the heck?" And she touches his beard, and he giggles. And then that's the end of the movie. Yay!
Yeah, well,
people can get old.
Jessica and Logan show up, and he waves to him, and that's it.
That's it. And I'm like, ooh, Peter Ustinov's gonna get lots. Gonna get laid lots.
Oh my God!
Did you sleep with the old man? Yes, I did. He's like totally different. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah. I mean, incidentally, quick note. I'm not crazy. I did look it up, and 4 people were drowned in that thing. A kid fell in there, I guess, and then his family tried to rescue her, I guess, and 4. They were all 4 killed.
Oh, jeez.
It was some sort of thing where it's it was like way deeper than it was supposed to be, and they knew about this, like going back to when it was built. It's like, yeah, you can't go in there. You'll
That's
be
some good
drowned.
engineering.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, so I like the movie. I like the setup of it. It's interesting, but it's like it's like they're sitting there. The movie's what, an hour and 58 minutes, almost 2 hours, something like that. And it's like they're at the end. They're like, oh, geez, this movie's getting a little long. How are we gonna end this movie? They're like, oh yeah, we'll just computer blows up and then everybody goes outside and yeah, they touch the guy and everyone's happy. So yeah. Any other comments?
No, not about the movie.
That didn't happen, Michael. So I would just, what I'd like to see? I'd like to see a movie, Logan's Run 2 or The Aftermath. Like, what do you think happened right after that? I say probably 90% of the people in the cities died of starvation.
Yes.
Because they're completely useless, and all they've
Right.
ever done is had sex and psychedelic drugs. They don't know how to do anything except, terminate runners and plastic surgery. That's, not very useful for, growing food. And I mean, they probably all died.
Right.
There's no one's over 30. They don't have any experience of life that they can, oh yeah, I remember how to build a fire. I mean, they can't even build a fire probably. It's probably the first thing Peter Ustinov had to teach them. Yeah. So okay. So Greg doesn't care. He still loved the movie. I still like it too, but it's just like. And then Michael Gonzalez is Logan doomed the human race. I think that's probably true. Where are they going to get all these foods? But I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree that it probably wouldn't have turned out well for them. And but who knows? Now, I said I like the movie because of nostalgia and everything, and there's a lot. Generally I like it, but it isn't. Again, if it's one of these things, it's like, oh, the book versus the movie. The movie doesn't quite get there.
The logical consistency of
Yeah.
the movie is not
right.
100%.
On the other hand, spoiler, the book has a very strange turn, very different from the movie. And when I was reading it, that kind of threw me off as well. I was like, "What? Where'd this come from?" It's because it was just kind of like, burp, you're going one direction, and suddenly it's like, "Nope, that's this," and boom, you're done. So it did have a similar kind of end, unsatisfying ending, but it made more logical sense, I guess. Or I shouldn't say that. It was more conclusive.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think this is a good, overall, it's a good dystopian, utopian, dystopian movie. Again, the ending's a little weak, but the way it set the society up, I mean, it's classic science fiction, right? Where a utopia is set up, and then we get to see the cracks in it. And maybe we're not really happy about the way it ended. Oh yeah, the computer blows itself up, and then everybody lives happily ever after, supposedly.
Well,
okay, but that's not the thing. Like the ending isn't as important as setting up and looking at how the society is set up from a science fiction point of view, and from my point of view anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree that again, it wasn't something I questioned or said, "Oh boy, this really should have been something different." But from our modern way of looking at things, it's like, well, what was this story really telling us? It's like that. They live in a hedonistic society where, oh, look, it's all this great thing, and everybody's got everything they want, and they just do drugs and mess around all the time, and but where does that lead? It's like, well, to an early death. It's like you could you could start to draw conclusions from that if you want, or inferences at least. And and so ending that society is the good thing. I guess, is that what it's saying, or did it even try to say anything? I don't know. But
Yeah. All right, I'm going to deal with a couple questions in the chat. What about the series though? Never watched the series.
I did. I
maybe I should check it out. 14 episodes, TV series.
I don't remember a lot about it. They were outside, I know, and Francis wasn't dead. He was an antagonist, was trying to track him down. It was kind of that thing, as I recall, every week. Oh, they're chasing us down, or we're trying to get away. But honestly, I don't remember much about it other than that.
Yeah, the name of the book is Logan's Run. Same as Weatherman. Same as the movie. Yeah.
When did the
Well,
movie...
in the movie, Michael, they mention Peter Ustinov mentions that him and the cats used to live in this house. They're walking back, and he says we used to live in this house and this house, but then we ran out of mice, so we had to move someplace bigger. So yeah. Oh, so there's a sequel to another book, Logan's World.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody else have any? I think we pretty much hit all the points we wanted to hit. Cam, is that correct? You got anything else you want to?
Yeah. That's...
We're at 1 hour 30. So.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, we covered the movie. Maybe at some other point we can touch on it with the book and how that differs and everything.
Yeah, it's science fiction for sure. Yeah. So I was, I really like the aesthetic of it. It's just so 70s. Like, it's just like boom, right in your face, as 70s as it could be with the costuming and everything. So I like those throwbacks. Okay, a couple of admin stuff. So on the channel, we occasionally do these we look into these movies, and we're gonna do it probably about the same as we've been doing it every couple of weeks or something like that. But we're gonna try to go. I've got a list of about 40 different movies, and we're gonna try to focus on classic science fiction movies. So if you guys want to put into the chat some suggestions, I'm looking at things like for example, Westworld, Tron, The Fly, The Time Machine, The Day the Earth Stood Still, all kinds of these sort of older science fiction movies that we probably haven't seen. And if it's like The Day the Earth Stood Still, we're gonna look at the original, not the newer. If there's a newer version, we're gonna try to look at the original all the time. So we'll be picking our movies off this list, and trying to do this. Whenever we do a movie, it'll be based on that, as opposed to I don't know, something that was from yesterday or was made last week or something.
So what you're saying is there's gonna be a lot of homework.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch. We're gonna have to watch movies. We gotta pick one that we know. You get an advance notice so you can watch it before the stream. Yes, we will try to do that. At least a week's notice. I got to get better at organizing these things. Next week's show will be the 6 science fiction novels that you must read in order to be a science fiction snob. And I'm going to tease them in my Twitter all week. And Cam, you said you saw four out of the 6?
I think so.
So you're 4/6 of a snob.
Right.
These are not necessarily the I mean, I think they're good, but it's not necessarily the best science fiction. We're looking at stuff that's older that somehow set up science fiction, or is by an author that is, I'll give you a hint. The ABC, the ABCs are going to be in there too, for sure. They're the ABCs. If I'm assuming everyone knows what that means, Heinlein will be in there, that kind of stuff. So 6 to start off with, that every science fiction snob, I think, should have read or know about. Anyway, yeah, War of the Worlds, 1953. Yeah, War of the Worlds is one of the ones on the on my list. Not the what's his name version. Well, that version wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great, but War of the Worlds, yeah, the 53 version. I have that. Yeah, I have that down. Barbarella. Some of the earlier stuff, we got to talk about this, Cam. But I was thinking, even into the 90s, like, there's some good, like, Demolition Man. I'd like to focus on more of the 60s and 70s, Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, but there's also, Escape from New York, Blade Runner, Demolition Man is it's more of an action, but it's still science fiction. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What else do I have in there? Contact is kind of an earlier one. I was thinking going, earlier than Contact. Might be a little late, but it's 90s. Gattaca. The Matrix, Terminator, Clockwork Orange, RoboCop, Galaxy Quest, Solaris might be a good one. Time Cop. Oh, that's not a bad one. Yeah. Anyway, there's so many. Yeah. You guys are gonna make me get an X count. I'm trying to use my X properly to talk about science fiction instead of just liking Cam's posts when he says something or comments and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm taking advice from people about this is what you should use X for. Not
well, what we should do is see how many, this episode, since it's a template for these other ones, if it gets just huge amounts of views, right? You can expect at least 200 views. Maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just. What's my X account? It's Sci-Fi Snob.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, you just search me, and at Sci-Fi Snob, or search Science Fiction Snob. It's that's the title of it, but at Sci-Fi Snob. If anybody wants to check me out there, and I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna start using it a little bit more. I just promote the show is what we normally do, and we're gonna try to be a little more proactive and a little more sci-fi. All right. So we talked about next show, Cam. This Wednesday, you want to talk about Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday we continue our Babylon 5 retrospective. Same time, different day. So 11 p.m. Eastern on every Wednesday. And we'll be discussing episode 4. Yeah, episode 4.
What's it called? Infection.
Yeah.
Infection. We did Born to the Purple last week, so the next one. Yeah. All right. I think
good views and people participating in the chat, so that's been fun. And of course,
people seem to be liking the Babylon 5. Death Angel Shadow, you just followed me on X. I thought you followed me before. Oh, well, he's pretty late to the party. Oh, well. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell your friends subscribe to Sci-Fi Snob YouTube channel. He's scratching away, getting a few viewers here and there, or a few subs here and there.
We're trying to get to 1,000 subs by July, I think. We're at 500 and we're 525. Up from 2 from the last time I checked a couple days ago. So yeah, if you don't do X, that's fine. There's no big deal. It's we're just trying to push stuff. But yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's it. And any last minute things, Cam, you want to mention?
Nope. Just appreciate everybody who came by.
Yeah,
and chat.
We do this to discuss the stuff and for the chat. So we really appreciate everybody coming in the chat. Saying XYZ and throwing in your 2 cents. We like science fiction. We want to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, Greg C says I want to say. He says I want to say they learned a lot about you guys from Sci-Fi for Me. I want to give Jason a shout out. Absolutely. We are both children of the Sci-Fi for Me channel and such in the sense that we sometimes participate on shows there, and I suggest everyone go and check them out as well. They are trying to get some additional followers, and I will pop a link for them in the chat in just 1 second here.
Yep, that's where we both came from. We were watching Jason's show, and occasionally going on there and bitching and moaning when he would have open mic Friday. So we decided we'd do our own show. Bitch and moan ourselves.
Well,
we don't have to wait for him.
You decided to do your own show. I just kind of get dragged into it.
All right. So that's it for today's show. Did you drop the link?
Yep, there it is.
All right.
Sci-fi for me, TV daily. Well, not daily, but often at around noon Eastern. I'm sorry, noon. 1 Eastern. 1 Eastern.
1 Eastern.
Yep.
Noon Central, right?
Yep.
11 Mountain. All right, so that's it. That's it for the show. Yeah, thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time. Oh, wait, did we forget something?
No.
Did we forget something?
Nope.
We forgot
nope.
the.
Good night, everybody.
We forgot the joke. Lose a Mountain Time. I live in Mountain Time. That's
okay, please.
Listen. If anybody's waiting for the jokes, this was I was tough finding good jokes that have anything to do with dystopia science fiction. They are all really, really bad. So
yeah, unlike our regular ones.
Yeah. So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up too much. Definitely Angel Shadow, but it's pretty bad. All right. I don't even want to do these ones.
Oh,
they're so.
Rip the Band-Aid off, man. Let's go.
It's all puns, and they're just really, really bad.
Now you know how I feel.
Oh, this is okay, well, let's do a robot one here. When the robots and computers take over, they really bite off more than they can chew, and I mean bite as in BYTE. As in bite.
Yeah,
get it?
That's it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. And I don't even want it. I don't want any of the other ones. They're just too horrible. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's not a joke. It's like a pun. We're just gonna have to fail. There's just not many good post-apocalyptic jokes. Yeah. All right. That's it. I can't. I just can't. This is just it's
great.
It's even too bad for me. I can't even. Never mind.
All right.
All right. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday, and then next Sunday, Wednesday for Babylon 5. Next Sunday for the 6 sci-fi snob novels you must read. Yeah, we'll see you then. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.